Do we have everybody?
I don't see, was Ryan Nagel still?
Ryan Nagel,
Oh, yeah.
is he still?
That's right. Should we wait a couple minutes for him, I guess? Just in case. We are streaming live, though, on YouTube, just so you know.
Fix my hair.
Yeah. I forgot my big wavy hand thing
You wave your hand and
for YouTube.
wear a large hat at some point. Yeah, make sure you turn your cell phones off so you're not that person.
Were we expecting Mr. Nagel?
I haven't heard one way or the other from him if he was coming,
I saw
so.
an email chain and he said looking
The
forward to it.
email said he was coming.
Oh,
Was
did he
looking
send that
forward
to
it.
me?
But I
Yeah.
haven't,
Oh.
didn't see anything since, that was probably, you initially set out the,
Yeah, that was last week, so
So last
something
week.
may
Oh,
have
okay.
come up.
Guess we can wait a couple more minutes. Who gets to make the call? Since we don't have a chairman.
You do.
you,
Oh, okay.
Right now, you
wait.
have all the power.
you are,
This is
you are
weird.
it.
Does anybody, I don't have his number. Is there anybody have his number?
No,
I think I did.
I'm not sure if it's in an email. If he, let's see.
No, I just have an email for him.
No.
Oh, I'm
that's-
Kristen.
You are?
Yeah.
Here's that other
Got the
thing.
paper?
Yes.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
just an email.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is the one that's supposed to be plugged in for it, right?
Correct.
Well,
I need apparently
Is the
enough
mouse
people.
working?
You do. You do still need 4 votes.
Skip.
we're having technical difficulties anyway, so.
We did.
Oh.
Where were you living? You still living?
Nashville, DC, Chicago.
Oh.
And then just recently Phoenix.
Just press a couple random buttons.
Yeah,
That's great. I lived in Denver for a while. Enjoyed it, but it was-
I like them.
Denver's a great city.
Hey, Rob, how do you pronounce your last name?
Truca.
Truca, okay.
Thanks.
I'll try to get that right. My roll call.
Did you end up buying a place yet?
In the process,
In the
looking.
process, yeah. That's awesome.
Did we say we were waiting for Mr. Nagel, or we don't
I
think
mean,
he's
we've
coming?
given him 4 or 5 minutes. Might as
Okay.
well. Guess if he
let
shows
me
up late, you can always
Double check where.
let him in.
Okay, well, since we don't have a chairman right now, I, as clerk, will go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's the August 18th Landmark Commission meeting. It's 5:04. I'll take roll call. Mr. Meinzer,
Here.
Mr. Truca,
Here.
Mr. Schultz,
Here.
Mr. Whaley,
Here.
Mr. Griffiths,
Here.
and Mr. Nagel is not here. So first on the agenda, we have election of chairman. If there's any nominations or volunteers.
I will volunteer.
That's good. I was about to nominate
We're gonna
you.
do that. That being said, I volunteer with, I will say that I've been on many boards and committees and things of that nature. I've never been a chair of a board, so if I say the wrong thing, feel free to correct me as far as the voting process goes, so we can make sure that we comply with that gentleman over there.
I think, do we have any other, I guess, nominations or volunteers? No? Do we need a motion for that then?
Yeah, I would do a motion and a roll call vote to elect the chair.
Okay.
Okay, I move we nominate Ryan Whaley to be the chair of the Landmark Commission.
Okay.
Second the nomination.
And should I do a roll call or just?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'll do a roll call then. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Truca?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Mr. Griffiths?
Yes.
Okay. So now we will move on to election of vice chairman. Are there any nominations or volunteers?
I will volunteer to be the vice chair. Nominate Ellen Griffiths.
Second that.
I guess I'll call roll call then. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Truca?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Mr. Griffiths?
Abstain.
You can vote for yourself.
I don't think I'm breaking any ties.
No, I think you. That was.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess I can hand it over to the chairman then.
That's where, now this is where if I'm doing anything wrong. So I guess we just move on to the review of the June 16th minutes, which everybody should have in front of them. I'm not sure if there's anything that stood out that we didn't cover, so if there are no questions, we can move forward with, what would that be? We're gonna go ahead and approve the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes of June 16th as written.
So we have an approval and a second, so that, close that, and we'll approve those.
Mr. Meinzer?
Yeah.
Mr. Truca?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Mr. Griffiths?
Yes.
I guess that will bring us up to the applications. The first application is from Steve Hafner, and this is regarding the roof replacement on the 135, 145 Columbus Avenue, which is the Crush Wine Bar building, and also Mona Pizza.
Yes.
And it looks like, do you guys have anything to add there? It looks like staff has recommended, gave its recommendations.
I can run through this really quickly if you'd like.
What's that?
I can run through this quick if you'd like.
Yeah,
with
good.
Additional information.
Great.
Okay, so it's zoned downtown business. Both the existing uses in those buildings are for restaurants, like you said, the Wine Bar and Mona Pizza. It's a non-contributing structure located within the downtown Sandusky Commercial Historic District. Any property that is within this district must require a certificate of appropriateness from the Landmark Commissions for any renovations. That would be, the roof would be considered part of that. The applicant wishes to replace the existing asphalt roof in the front facade overhang with a standing seam metal roof. The color choice is burgundy, as it matches the former Birch Building overhang color. And while determining the certificate of appropriateness, planning staff and Landmark Commission must consider the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and the Sandusky Preservation Design Guidelines. And upon review, staff determined that the proposed changes to the exterior of the building conform to both sets of guidelines. So we have deemed this appropriate and recommend approval for appropriateness.
I do have a question. The color choice is burgundy, and it says would like to match the former Birch Building overhang color. What overhang are we talking about there?
You've got some window coverings that are burgundy, and actually Andre and I were the ones that looked at different color options, and I said, hey, what would you like to see on the front? And she said, I think like a wine color,
Okay,
dark burgundy since Crush Wine Bar. And
so you're just tying into that block, and of course the Crush signs.
Trying to tie into the block and then also pick an appropriate color.
Does anybody else have any questions on this?
Mr. Chairman, I guess my only question is whether that burgundy is part of the color palette we have for downtown. Do we know?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay. And we are taking that back. I do like that word, that's going to the material, because that does fit.
Yeah.
So if there's no further questions, I would need a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And let's see, do we move into the nays now, or do we go to the roll call first?
Roll call.
Okay, so we can do the roll call.
Yep. Mr. Meinzer?
Yes.
Mr. Truca?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Whaley?
Yes.
Mr. Griffith?
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna look a lot
It's
better.
approved. That'll look great. Okay, and on to the next order of business is Mrs. Smith. All right. Has submitted an application for roof replacement to the home located at 319 Lawrence Avenue. And it's a two-family residential home. It is part of the,
That is.
Single family.
or I'm sorry, single family. It's part of the National
Lawrence
Register.
Street, not Avenue, Lawrence Street.
Lawrence Street, okay. And actually, let's get into what the staff would recommend for that, and then we can get into questioning.
So I'll do another rundown on kind of the background of the project. So it's zoned for two-family residential, but the use is single-family residential. The property is on the National Register and an Erie County Historic Structure, which is why we're here seeking appropriateness. The applicant, Sharon Smith, who's present, wishes to replace an existing metal roof with a shingled roof. The applicant indicated that a quote came long ago regarding it to be about $66,000, which we did receive after the report here was made. So a lot of the questions we have going forward was based on that quote, which we later got. So some of this we can skip over. It's based on the estimate, $20,000 is what it would cost for shingles, $66,000 to replace it with metal. So the applicant emphasized throughout this process that preserving the historic quality of the house is important, but the cost burden is overwhelming. And if there's any grant or any financial assistance, that they'd be willing to cooperate and go towards the metal roof option. So we did consider the few things, so the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and the Sandusky Preservation Design Guidelines. So based on the Sandusky guidelines, there were not any guidance for replacing metal roofs or any stringencies on they can or cannot. So the Secretary of the Interior Standards is kind of what we focused on gaining, going forward with our report. So it says in here, it's not recommended altering roof and materials from the restoration period, which this would be considered. It's recommended protecting a leaking roof with temporary waterproof membrane or synthetic underlayment or plywood or a tarp, et cetera, et cetera. So they're in the description of the property on the National Registry. It does say it has a standing seam metal roof, which would be significant towards the decision here. So staff recommended, we've been trying to recommend, and I know it's kind of tough with the situation a lot of roofing companies are in right now, getting back to clients not showing up, et cetera, but we still recommend getting additional quotes to see if the metal roof is an option based on pricing. The one quote obviously is significantly higher, but we would like to see some more comparable quotes to see if that's something we can move forward with. The material color in the proposed shingles was also kind of a concern, and just transitioning from metal to a shingle roof based on the historical significance of the property was a concern. So staff recommends the commission direct the applicant to find other modes of temporarily sealing the roof with the options I previously said. And more or less, we're seeking guidance from the commission on how to move forward appropriately based on what we've been given.
Okay. And now would this be a time where we would allow these guys to comment?
Yeah, I think it'd be a
You
perfect
guys
time.
would like to have any comments or anything?
Okay, may I speak? I'm Sharon's brother.
Yeah,
Okay, and I'm here obviously trying to help her through this. It's a pretty substantial project
Yeah.
that she's facing now because of wanting to maintain the historic value of the property. I've got a couple questions I think that'll help us, and just being here is helpful in seeing what Mr. Hafner has presented is very helpful to see what you're looking for as far as documentation. But I do have a couple questions, if you may. The approval process, is it possible to possibly look at this in stages? Because honestly, a project like this, a lot of the contractors are very reluctant to give a very accurate quotation because it's kind of scary, anticipating what is underneath a roof that's been there for a long time, and that might be reflected in the quotation. People are they're very, very scared, so obviously they're highballing it. I just had a thought, possibly working with a contractor in a stage to remove the roof and then see what they're up against, obviously then replacing that underlying roofing material in, like a felt paper or something like that to stabilize the residents so that we don't have water leakage, because it's gotten to the point now where it's now affecting the interior of the property. That's one question. You can think about that. The other would be a partial, where just the front of the property is done because of the appearance from the street or something. I don't know how it was noted in the original application for the registry. So those are two questions. I've got more, but could somebody maybe address those just to kind of get an idea of where we could head with this?
Well, I think you're with the stages, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong here. That's a bit of what the staff is kind of recommending, that we kind of take a path to do that, to say, okay, let's see what happens if we, I think a quote for a lower price of metal as well, but also a quote that says, okay, yes, we can allow a quote for repairs as well, exactly what you said, and then go from there. I think the concern is, by the way, this is a beautiful home. I've walked by it plenty of times. Great house, very cool. And so, the purpose of this commission is to maintain the homes the way they look and keep that integrity in Sandusky. But however, we don't want you to have to spend that kind of money to keep leakage out of your home. So certainly understand. So actually, if there is a potential, let's discuss this a little bit on how we could potentially help these guys with the stages. And if anyone from the city staff does know of any grants or things like that are out there with the city, we'd love to point you guys in the direction of that as well, which could also help some things. I'd love to have a discussion about potentially,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you to the applicants, I'm hugely in favor of giving you some time to kind of figure out what the problem is. So if it requires taking the existing roof off essentially and putting a temporary roof on in order to secure the home, then by all means. So it's going to be tough to do that, and I take your point about getting quotes when you don't really know what the problem is. So by all means, figure out what the problem is and come back to us.
Excuse me, would a permit be required for that? Because that's how this whole thing came about, is that she had settled on an asphalt contractor, and he applied for the permit, obviously, and that's where everything kind of changed.
Sure.
So even to remove the existing roof, is there a permit required there?
I believe there is a permit required there, because then you fall into the demolition standards. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Because if you go
Top of my head, I
we
can't
don't have
answer
it
Just to
in front
repeat.
of us.
Good night. Well, Mr. Chairman, Sharon, I've been friends with Ezel and Sharon for a lot of years, neighbors. I actually worked on that roof in the 70s.
Yes,
Oh, well, then
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Problem
it's an old
solved.
tin roof.
Commissioner Miser's going to fix it for you.
Is that why it's leaking?
That's 70s. How long ago was that? 50 years? That's
Because
pretty
you
good,
didn't use
right?
enough or
I should
tar,
ask.
because there's plenty of tar up there, you know?
How long has it been leaking?
Oh, gosh.
Off and
Mike.
on for a long time.
So
A long time.
if you talk to, it's a tin roof and, you know, it needs to be, you
Different
could patch them and it's been patched several times and soldered in patches. Have you done that
I
or?
think we've done everything, painted at least 2 times
Yeah.
that I remember.
Okay.
But it's, originally it was leaking in the back on the left by your house
Okay.
and then now it's in several of the other rooms also. So, yeah, it's getting worse.
Yeah,
way
the tin
worse.
was thin in the 70s, so I'm thinking like mid-70s, so it's getting thin. So it's
Well,
but
we-
it adds so much character to the house. But I'll tell you what, $66,000 for
Well,
standing is crazy.
I
Yeah.
thought so.
It-
But yeah, Mike, we bought it in 88, we've been there since 88, so we've had numerous things
Yeah,
done.
and to be fair, Ezel's passed away in the last year,
Yes.
and I'm sure that coming up with $66,000 is crazy, and I know that's the best kept house in the block, or the whole street, actually.
Yeah.
So I think we need to find, like you said, grant money or something,
Well-
and be helpful, stop the house from deteriorating, because that's a
I want to say
beautiful
that
house.
Ezel worked very hard
Oh, you did.
to
Yard, the house, everything.
well, the yard, yes,
Yeah.
that, but I'm just saying towards this roof situation.
Yeah.
He tried just about everything right up until just quite recently here.
Yeah.
So it isn't something that's been ignored.
I think that the climate right now with materials and vendors and contractors is just, it's so difficult to get some good pricing right
Yeah,
now. It's like,
yeah.
it's just, so if you could stop any deterioration, I would make a motion.
Right,
I
right.
think
For
that's
now,
what the
sure, absolutely.
planning department wants, to just try to,
Yeah, Mike, I think that's a great point. I think we need to do that. Now, what we have on our application here just says new roof. Would they need to fill out another application to say, okay, we are gonna do some, we're gonna remove the existing roofs in the weak parts, and then we're gonna see what the next step is? Because I certainly think this group wants to approve that. Is that something we can do today?
I think you can make a motion to modify the certificate of appropriateness to just be for, you know, a phase or a set amount of work, approve that, which should allow them to get the permit that they need from the building or whichever department you're working with, which then, and then they would obviously have to come back
Sure.
at some point for,
We could potentially stop that water leakage.
right, yeah.
Real quick.
But I believe you can modify that by motion here today.
So we could approve a motion that would allow for whatever work they need to do to be able to essentially scope their project and get decent quotes to put
Yep, and
ideally a metal roof back on the building. That's what the
That's the
standards want.
And I would want you guys
Had
to
it
stress that with your,
Yeah.
Yeah.
contractor, whoever
Yeah.
you use.
That-
And
that's
definitely
the
encourage multiple
direction.
quotes, yeah.
A lot of the quotes were not accurate anymore because they've gone past the 30-day limit or whatever. But, you know, we're waiting for 2 or 3 quotes now of people that seem to be legitimately, you know, interested in doing this, you know, and are competent. So that's, you know, that's just a matter of time getting something. But they're all hesitant, you know, until they see actually what's underneath, so.
Sure.
And the other thing, you touched on it briefly, you know, the grant money. That's a whole separate project, and, you know, we're pursuing that also, but it's not an easy thing. I mean, you know, I'm waiting for return emails, contact information, and stuff like that. So, yeah, we're pursuing that also on a separate kind of project. But we're, you know, as I said, we're just trying to see just what, you know, what we have to do at this point to satisfy, you know, moving forward. Okay, that answers that question. And the partial, I'm sure that's not going to be something that's really. you know,
That partial idea came from one of the roofers.
Yeah.
That was not something that we thought up. He felt that, I don't know, he's done it before, maybe, I don't know, but we didn't think it up. And that person that was going to get that back to us. I have not heard from him since then.
Right,
So I'm not sure that that's even in the game plan.
Yeah, I don't think we have to pursue that, really.
No, it was brand new thought and it's never gone further, so I don't know.
I would advise, as a builder and as an architect and somebody who's installed hundreds of roofs in his life, to not piecemeal any of the project together. Rule number 1 of architecture is don't hurt or kill anyone. Rule number 2 is to keep the water out. I mean, those are the 2 main objectives. Once any of that roof is compromised, and you might be able to speak to what's underneath that tin, but generally, just like an industry term of whether it's new construction or old construction, it's just called getting a house or a structure back in the dry. And what that means is not even having necessarily asphalt or a metal roof on top. It just means having basically plywood and then a water membrane. And that could be tar paper, that could be a couple other
Ice guard.
Yeah,
You can
you
put
know,
that on
so-
tomorrow and stick it on there and it'll stop it
So,
for a
but,
while.
and, you know, so I don't know what's, you know, do you have access, is there an attic space? Is that, is there drywall or is it plaster ceilings? Like what type of damage and how significant is it? And I'm just asking, so maybe I could help advise you.
They're plaster ceilings.
So they're plaster
Right,
ceilings,
yes.
okay.
And
So-
there's a large attic area. yes.
Exactly. So then just the demolition on that creates an entirely different amount of mess with the lath
Right.
and what have you. So,
Right.
just outside of the Landmark Commission, if I just met you on the street or if you were one of my clients, I'd say, do not,
Yeah. I agree.
don't start demoing part of this roof. That'll ruin what you're trying to achieve here. And it sounds like you've already exhausted trying to repair it, you know, several times.
It's been done a number of times, yes.
And after listening to everybody, it seems like the 66,000, that was for a copper roof, a copper metal roof?
Well, it's
No, it
been
was
mentioned.
just standing.
Just a standing seam?
Yeah, standing
Okay.
seam, yeah.
And then I noticed in the asphalt shingle quote, that was for 15 plus, and then if another 6,000 plus, just for an OSB or a plywood. I would assume no matter what roof goes back on this, you're gonna need an OSB roof, and you know, even 3/8, 5/8, half-inch OSB is anywhere from 50 to 70 bucks a sheet right now. So obviously,
27 today.
oh, well, there you go. It just went back, you know, down
Back down,
considerably.
yeah, it's been dropped.
But that's still high considering. So,
Yeah.
like you've already mentioned, everybody else, definitely try and get as many quotes as possible. From somebody who's obviously licensed, bonded, and reputable.
Right.
You know, I would be reaching outside of Erie County. I'd be looking in Toledo and Cleveland. I'd be looking for that one lull of someone's workflow where, you know, they can get this thing off. The thing you have going for you, it's not a high pitch. It will be easy to demo that and get it back in the dry with felt paper on before one of Ohio's, you know, Northern Ohio's rainstorms can come in just like that. So
Right.
that part works in your favor. So
Right.
please keep looking and
Thank you very much for bringing that up. I like that term, let's get it in the dry.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, right.
So I kind of think that that's what we can approve here today, if someone wants to make a motion, or I can, that we approve this to get that roof into the dry, and you guys, your job would be to get some more quotes, and for the metal roof, and it sounds like you're gonna want to
Right.
use the same contractor, and then we can at least get you in the dry.
Yes, exactly.
And then we can work on what we can do to prevent having a shingle roof, which, I mean, you guys seem to be in agreement. It would take away from the home a
Yeah,
lot.
that's not the direction we're headed.
No.
So let's
never
get that
was.
leak stopped as our first bet, so.
I just have one other
Sure,
question,
go
I mean, kind of just touching on what you've already discussed here. As far as the actual roof itself, are you approving the design of the roof or I guess the construction or manufacturing process used to make the roof? In other words, a standing seam metal roof. Mr. Hefner had drawings there or information from one supplier. But you're not approving the supplier or of the roof or the contractor. You're approving the actual design.
That's correct.
Okay, so we could get, once we get that approved, then we have the option of getting any contractor to go ahead and
Absolutely,
install that roof. And one of the other details that, in talking to these contractors, or one of the other questions, was how detailed do you have to get as far as fasteners and the method that the original roof was put on by? I mean, that could have been a manufacturer or installation process done whenever that was put in, and it's not done like that anymore.
You want to provide as much detail as possible.
Okay.
However, if you look at Mr. Hafner's example, that's a great example.
Right.
We basically are going to look for and feel free to interrupt me if anybody, we're going to look for, the design of it from, we're going to look for a lot of curb appeal, to be honest, and maintaining the original look of the house. More than anything, particularly with a roof. That
Yeah,
gets
I
a little
mean,
more complicated with other things.
Fasteners
But a
and
roof is
the
roof.
method, I mean, you're not gonna see that from the
We're not
street
going to
or
look at what
something.
kind of nails you're using.
Yeah, well, they're not nailed.
Or whatever they are,
They're
right.
Yeah, something, right. Okay, that answered, thank you very much. I think that's it.
Well, and I think the timing is going to be okay. I mean, we meet monthly, so, and.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're holding you up if we approve this today. So I guess the next step would be if anybody doesn't have any more questions. Anybody? I can make a motion, correct? Yeah, I'm allowed to do that? So I make a motion that we allow Sharon to move forward with bringing the roof into the dry stage. We're not approving the material on the roof yet to what it's going to become in the end, but we are approving starting the process of getting into the dry stage.
In other words, the original roof, I mean, we can remove the original roof and get it stabilized.
You got it.
Okay.
And I would need a second.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that is, and then you'll take the vote.
Yep, Mr. Meinzer,
Yes.
Mr. Truca,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Whaley,
Yes.
and Mr. Griffiths.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, can I just make a comment too? I think I would encourage you in this process to reach out to planning staff, to reach out to Commissioner Meinzer, quite frankly, anybody you know in the city and in the county, and to help you with this process, particularly when it comes to searching for funding. There certainly is funding for repairing historical buildings. It can be hard to find and hard to get at. But, I think as a city, we should be doing everything we can to help you do that.
Is there an individual, a contact that you can give us? Because honestly, I think a lot of this has been attempted in the past.
Absolutely.
I would start at the top with the commissioner at the end of the table there and see where you get to.
I mean, really,
Well, my emails have been after this for.
Yeah,
Give me a call.
Yeah, we'll put him on the roof if we have to.
I was just, if I wasn't 65 next month, I was going to volunteer, but, yeah. I mean, that's a cool house, yes.
How did you guys?
You're welcome to contact me as well. I mean, I've done a lot of buildings in the area at this point, so I have some contacts and
thank
roofers,
you.
things like that. I just send you names. I'm not going to tell you who's, I'll just say, hey, these are guys you might want to look at.
Okay.
So we're glad to help out in that way.
Well,
I worked
thank you.
through Jonathan Holiday to get funding that you
Oh,
guys.
thanks.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I was just gonna say. I can have Jonathan reach out to you guys regarding options that we have.
okay.
Okay.
Do you need my contact information? Do you need
Yes,
Sure.
please.
If, yeah, I don't think I
email or-
have.
cell phone or what?
Whichever you prefer.
Email would be good.
Okay, yeah, if you want to write it down.
Okay. Oh, there's one more.
This guy right here, what's his role? Pardon? He's city law director. City law director. Keeps us in line. Make sure we're doing things right.
Okay, can you need that? Okay, thank you.
So I think we're set there, so we would move on to, I just want to say that it's nice, I thank you guys for coming, and this is what these discussions are supposed to facilitate. that you guys walk out of here feeling good, you've just made a contact, and so we kind of take some of the fog out of dealing with local government and things like that sometimes. And so that's what the goal of this commission really is, I think. Anyway, moving on to other business. Is there anything that anybody else has?
I think staff have one more.
This isn't on the agenda, but I'd like to just run you guys through this.
Good.
We approved a sign downtown through staff. Just wanted to run you guys through what we approved. So ESP Bikes LLC, doing business as Pedigo Electric Bikes, Sandusky at 131 East Water Street. Applied for some signage on the water-facing side of 131. It is in the downtown Sandusky Design Review District. So here's a signage we approved, a wall sign, then a free hanging sign for an entrance. Run you through it if you guys would like to. So earlier this year, the front facade was approved, same colors. It was just an awning style of signage. So these signs are both non-illuminated, and the staff felt that it was good quality design, simple graphics, simple messages, which meets all the criteria. And the shape's appropriate, colors are not fluorescent, the background isn't white, so all these things added up to staff approval, and that was on August 6th of 2021. That's it.
Great. Anybody have any questions about that? No, easy.
Nothing about signs.
All right, so we will move on to other business. I do want to look at some things that we had started before, but since this is my first run at this, I want to do a little bit more studying on what, we talked a little bit about the application change and a few other things that we were going to get into, but I want to just do a little bit more research before we dive into that. If everybody's okay with that. And then do we move into staff reports? And I'm sorry, I thought the sign thing was in staff reports. That was my fault.
Yeah,
Was it?
yeah.
Oh, my fault.
No,
It doesn't matter, we got it, so it's good.
Yeah, it was quick and easy.
All right, and now, if there's nothing else, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I had one more thing to add, y'all. Is it okay to pipe in real quick?
Oh.
This is
Oh, we
Aaron.
forgot about this. Sorry.
Sorry, I forgot about you.
No, you're fine. I wanted to share just really quickly, I've been in contact with the library. They're going to be doing several improvements starting this fall all the way through next fall. It's going to include putting up scaffolding. So if anyone has questions, I wanted to make sure that you all were apprised in what they're doing. So the Sandusky Library has conducted a full inspection, and they've just found a number of things that caused by age and natural weathering. Do sealing all open joints, anchoring any loose or displaced ornament, general cleaning and treatment, minor roofing work, flashing installation, masonry repointing. So far, everything that they've mentioned to us, it does not need a certificate of appropriateness because it's routine maintenance. But because you'll probably see that happening, I wanted to make sure that you knew about it. The architect did mention that they might reconstruct or replace any non-salvageable elements, and I let him know that that could be, if there was anything contributing to the character of the library that they were going to reconstruct or replace, at that point they might need to come before you for a certificate of appropriateness, and they said they would stay in touch. But they had a whole phase one that was all just basically getting it in the dry, the new phrase we all learned tonight, that I wanted to make sure that you all
Love
knew
that
about.
phrase.
That's all, thanks.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, I think we are adjourned.